What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another CAD Pop Patreon Deck Tech. Let's hit it right now. Alright, we are back with another CAD Pop Patreon submitted deck tech brought to you by the wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/CADPopcast. This is the Commander Ad Populum YouTube channel. Welcome. Huge thank you to FusionGamingOnline.com, your source for all your gaming needs, all your deck tech needs. And today we've got a special one. This is Patreon supporter David Hodges' daughter's list. And I can't believe I'm going to say this and do this, but this is a Princess Twilight Sparkle list. Now, if you're not into the secret layers and the ponies, I would implore you to not change the channel yet, because this is going to exemplify a whole bunch of stuff that we try to promote and advocate for on Commander Ad Populum, both the YouTube page and the podcast. And remember, these deck techs are for three groups of people. The new people, new to the format, new to Magic. The kids, that's who this deck could appeal to. The second group is the established players, the people looking to maybe refine an edge, sharpen some tool in their arsenal, or go outside their comfort zone. The third group, this is the other group that this deck could appeal to. This is the long-time player, the established player, the player looking for nostalgia or looking to introduce a new player into the game. And that's exactly what we're doing today with this deck, because David's daughter is 8 years old, and it's very uncommon that we have a deck that appeals to that first group, the new player, and the long-time player. Usually it's groups 1 and 2 or groups 2 and 3, not groups 1 and 3. So this is this very special deck. So I'm really excited to do it today, and I hope everybody sticks around and listens to the whole thing. Let's give Princess Twilight Sparkle a read. I can't believe I'm saying that still. I'm saying it with a smile because I got the email with this deck and I had to do it because it's about David and his daughter and having fun and new to Magic and discovery and experience, and it's very special. So Princess Twilight Sparkle, a 2/2 alicorn? Sure. I don't even know what that is. I'm not a pony guy. I'm not a brony, whatever. It's for blue, white, and it flies. It's a 2/2. Other alicorns, horses, pegasi, ponies, and unicorns you control get +1/+1. Additionally, you can pay Wooburg, and if you control all of the other ponies, every pony wins the game. We're not interested in that ability. This isn't a Wooburg deck. It's actually a Bant deck. And it comes with 2 sideboard or supplementary commanders in Derevi Imperial Tactician, which for Bant is a 2/3 bird wizard with flying. Enters a battlefield or a creature you control deals combat damage to a player. You may tap or untap target permanent, and you can pay Bant and 1 to put Derevi onto the battlefield from your command zone. This is a real commander. Derevi stacks, Derevi flying tribal control, that's a thing. And the other Bant commander that you could use is Chulane. And everybody knows that Chulane shows up to ball. So if you sit down and you're playing a deck like this and you're having that infamous Rule 0 conversation, hey, can I play my pony deck? Hey, my daughter, she's 8, this is the deck we built together. David said he's never had an issue, not once. But for teaching reasons or complexity reasons, sometimes they want to switch it up. Derevi Chulane gives a different experience, and that is part of what Commander is about, especially when you're learning. Again, very special deck because it exemplifies all the things that we talk about on CAD Pop all the time. Let's get to the deck. We'll get to some of the common categories, the ramp, the card draw, the removal, and then we'll get to what makes this deck unique. So in the ramp section, of course, Arcane Signet, Azorius Signet, Selesnya Signet, Cultivate, Kodama's Reach, Skyshroud Claim, the infamous Soul Ring, and what's really cool, Opaline Unicorn. This is a 3-drop, 1/2 unicorn, so it gets a buff from Princess Twilight Sparkle. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So right on theme with the ramp. We love that. 8-year-old me is smiling because I discovered a unicorn for my unicorn deck, but it's also a mana rock, so it furthers my game plan. There's an Explorer, a Growth Spiral, and an Urban Evolution. Those let you draw cards and play more lands. So they kind of fit into the card draw and the ramp section. Card draw proper, we've got Divination, Harmonize, Opt, Ponder, and Sun Titan. Some common cards, some very straightforward cards, great for teaching why card advantage is good, easy to use cards, and in Sun Titan's case, very powerful. The removal section is where this deck starts to get kind of interesting, because ponies never destroy, they never kill, they never sacrifice. So instead of your traditional destroy stuff or target player sacrifices a creature that we could play because this could be a 5-color deck, we've got things like Crib Swap, Path to Exile, Song of the Dryad, Swords to Plowshares, Terminus. Those don't destroy, they exile, they shuffle onto the bottom. We've got Barrier Breach, which is another exile for 3 enchantments, and it cycles to draw a card. Curse of the Swine turns everything into 2/2 green pigs. Devastation Tide, which is a miracle card that you can cast for 2, but it just bounces everything. Kazmina's Transmutation, which turns things into 1/1s. It doesn't kill them, it just turns them into a frog or something in the picture, right? And now this is when it gets really cool. If you can imagine playing against an 8-year-old, which I have done. I've played against lots of really young kids, both at FNMs and Magic Fests, where they're always having a good time, even if they're a little bit nervous. And as experienced players, we should always do a good job of making younger or newer players feel comfortable and help them along if we can recognize that they're struggling a little bit with complexity or some rules interactions. But this is where it gets really good. There's a counterspell, which is traditionally just really good, but then there's a didn't say please, which is just perfect. I can hear a little 8-year-old girl saying that in a game when somebody actually just cast something and she said, "You didn't say please." Yeah, it's great. So this is a 3-drop counter target spell. Then its controller mills 3 cards. More than anything, this is a flavor include for a young kid to really have a good time. And this is the exact kind of card, parents, that hooks kids, teaches them manners, teaches them that kind of like social interaction can be fun and funny. This is it. Perfect include for the deck. Furthering the no sacrifice theme, we've got Angel of Jubilation, a 3/3 for white 3 flyer. Other non-black creatures you control get +1/+1, which is all of them. So immediately it's an anthem effect. And players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast spells or activate abilities. No Necropotence, no pay life to draw cards, stuff like that. Good include. And then Yasharn Implacable Earth, white, green, 2. Elemental Boar. Whenever Yasharn Implacable Earth enters a battlefield, search your library for a basic forest card and a basic plains card, reveal them, put them into your hand. Kind of card draw, but you always draw land, which is fine. And its other ability is players can't play life or sacrifice non-land permanents to cast spells or activate abilities. No sacrificing, remember. Ponies never sacrifice, they never destroy. Onto the ponies proper, we've got an Armored Pegasus. That's a 1/2 flyer. Just straight up, remember, this is an 8-year-old. Not every single card needs to have 45 words on it. Captivating Unicorn, a 4/4. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you tap something. Concordia Pegasus, a 1/3 flyer. Inspiring Unicorn. When it attacks, creatures you control get +1/+1. Loyal Unicorn, if you control your commander, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to creatures you control this turn. Majestic Auricorn. This is a mutate. When it mutates, you gain 4 life. You would mutate this onto one thing. I think it's just in here because it's a unicorn. There's not other mutate cards in here. There's Mesa Unicorn. That's a life linker. Pegasus Charger, Flying First Strike. Pegasus Courser. Plated Pegasus. Prized Unicorn. I like this one with another section that we're going to talk about. All creatures able to block Prized Unicorn do so. This is a lure effect. Splendor Mare, Stormfront Pegasus, Sungrace Pegasus, Zebra Unicorn, classic from Mirage. Great art. They don't make art like this anymore. I would encourage everybody to look that one up. Emil the Blessed, this is the pay 3 to exile another target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Whenever another creature enters a battlefield under your control, you may pay Selesnya Hybrid. If you do, you put a +1 counter on it. If it's a unicorn, you put 2 instead. And we've got many unicorns in here, and Emil the Blessed can sort of, if you've got the mana to kind of loop it every turn with that Yasharn Implacable Earth, can make sure you never miss land drops and you just hit land drops all the time, because you can bounce it and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and then you can put your land down. It's not really a combo because we can't play multiple lands per turn to pay that 3 to exile with Emil. But it is a good synergy, and again, a great teaching tool to teach somebody, okay, leave this open as a blocker. At end of turn, you pay the 3, you bounce it, return it, get your land, and then when you untap, upkeep, draw, then you for sure at least have 2 land in your hand to play. Again, just a good little synergy, great teaching tool. Finally, last creature in the pony section, there's 19 of them total that we've gone through. This is Lair the Bounteous Dawn. This is a unicorn, 2/2 for 4, lifelink. At the beginning of each end step, each one, if you gained life this turn, distribute up to that many +1/+1 counters among any number of creatures you control. This is going to get big. And a bunch of our unicorns, horses have lifelink. That's kind of just a thing that they put on unicorns. Again, it's a unicorn, it has lifelink, it synergizes with other unicorns that have lifelink. That unicorn horse tribal deck that's kind of been in the works for a little while now is finally starting to roll. And if you didn't want a Princess Twilight Sparkle and you wanted to stay out of blue and just go like Emil or Lathiel, love the names by the way, you could do that. And those 2 cards actually represent like 2 other supplemental commanders that you could have in this deck. And you'd only have to cut a couple cards, right? The Divination, Didn't Say Please, Counterspell, Curse of the Swine, Devastation Tide. Those are the only ones that you'd really have to cut so far. But we've got another section or 2 to go. Next one is called Pump You Up. We've got an Always Watching. Non-token creatures you control get +1 and Vigilance. Collective Blessing. Creatures you control get +3. Dragon Throne of Tarkir. Now this one can get out of hand. You got to watch out for this one. This is a legendary artifact equipment for 4 and it equips for 3. Mostly this card sees play in casual tables, circles, crowds. Equipped creature has Defender and 2 tap. Other creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. We've got a bunch of anthems, we've got a bunch of pumps, we've got a bunch of +1 synergies. If we put this on our biggest guy, it's 9 mana to cast it, equip it, and activate it. But at 9 mana, it is the kind of thing that's going to win us the game. Lots of our horses, Pegasus, unicorns, I'm going to call them horses, have flying. They are difficult to block. And if we can give them all +4, 5, 8, it's going to end some games. We've got a Glorious Anthem, Hall of Triumph. Those are 2 more Anthem effects. Pledge of Unity is an instant for white, green, 1. You put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, and then you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Again, life gain and +1s. We're starting to see a sort of secondary theme. Primal Empathy, enchantment for blue, green, 1. So there's a blue pip there. We might have to cut this if we didn't want to do the Princess Twilight Sparkle or the Chulane or the Derevi route. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield. And we might, because we got +1 synergies. Additionally, if we don't do that, we put a +1 counter on a creature we control. Eventually, this could get us to drawing a card. Primal Rage is a 2-drop enchantment that gives our creatures trample, which makes them not harder to block, but if they're big, then we shouldn't have any trouble getting through. And then finally, in this category, we've got the 6-drop Oko the Trickster. This is a 6-drop 4 loyalty Oko that has a +1 to put a +1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. A 0 until end of turn. Oko the Trickster becomes a copy of target creature you control and prevent all damage that would be dealt to him this turn. Pick a creature that pumps, or pick a creature that flies that you need to get through with one extra attacker, for example. And then Oko's -7 is until end of turn. Each creature you control has base power and toughness 10/10 and gains trample. A little bit magical Christmas land to get Oko to -7 and Throne of Tarkir to give +10/+10. But I'm sure if this deck and its little pilot can play the long game enough, it can get there. And that's the exact kind of thing that Commander is built on, is the notion that we can include these types of cards and try and get there. That's part of what makes it fun. We've got a couple removal, anti-block cards here to round out what we're trying to accomplish with the last couple sections that we just went over. The first one is a Bluster Squall. Think Cyclonic Rift, but not like $30. This is blue to tap target creature you don't control, or blue 3, tap each creature you don't control if you overload it. You're going to get blockers out of the way. Look back to Oko's Ultimate, look back to Dragon Throne of Tarkir, or if you go like Collective Blessing, Glorious Anthem, Bluster Squall on the next turn and just crash in. We've got a Rogue's Passage. It's a land that makes creatures unblockable. And Asleep. I've played this card in Commander. I've actually played this card. Tap all creatures target player controls, and then they don't untap during the next untap step. That's a sorcery for blue 2. That's more powerful than you think because you're keeping them tapped for 2 turns. Offensively or defensively, that card can be used to great effect. Finally, this is the coolest name out of all of the categories that we've gone through. This is Stampede, which is perfect thematically. First card is Biomass Mutation. Simic, Hybrid, and X. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn. So if you don't have all of the time in the world to get your Oko up to -7 it after you spend 6 mana and a bunch of turns, you just put, 5 or 6 into this. Again, 8 mana, yes, but at casual tables, this is the kind of thing that can win the game. Mirror Entity is our next card. Sort of does the same thing. It's a 1/1 for 3 changeling, so it is a unicorn or a horse or what have you, but you can pay X, and until end of turn, creatures you control have base power XX and gain all creature types. So your couple angels and stuff are going to turn into horse or Pegasi, and they're going to get bigger. Goes right along with Overwhelming Stampede. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain trample and get +X, where X is the biggest power among creatures you control. So you got 1/5/5, all your creatures are going to get +5/+5, for example. And finally, the horsiest, Pegasiest card in the whole deck, this is Stormherd. And I've had this card played against me to great effect, let me tell you. This is a sorcery for white 8. Oh baby. Create X 1/1 white Pegasus creature tokens with flying. They would be 2/2s if we have our commander, of course, where X is your life total. And remember, we've got a life gain sub-theme in this deck via the creature section with all of that lifelink. Great finisher. It's the type of card where as this deck would evolve, maybe David and his daughter, as she grows, this is her first deck, she never wants to take it apart, it's her birthday, she gets a Concordant Crossroads, and that is going to give all creatures haste for 1 mana, and she learns how to ramp, she learns how to play the long game, she gets to 11 mana, late game, casual, Concordant Crossroads, Stormherd, swing for 100 or what have you, right? The other upgrade I would suggest, because we are doing the token thing a little bit there, we've got the +1/+1 sub-theme. We could do a doubling season. We could do an Anointed Procession, a Parallel Lives. Those are the kinds of cards that go into token decks or +1/+1 counter decks to great effect, and the perfect types of cards that exist right at that price range where they might be a birthday present or a passing present when you finish school in the spring, right? That's the kind of thing that I would suggest for this deck. Now, David said he kept this deck mostly budget and mostly with easy enough to understand interactions such that he can leave his daughter and she can play and she can pilot the whole deck, and it exists kind of in the same power level as a precon, which other new players are often recommended to play. And if there is any complex interactions, maybe those precon players, those less competitive players, let's call them, maybe they're not new to Magic, just new to Commander, they can help. And that's the kind of thing that is going to foster independence, foster social interaction, creativity, all things that Magic the Gathering and Commander in particular can help teach kids or young adults or adults even. We all need to work on social interactions, especially these days. And this throws back all the way to episode 4 of Commander Ad Populum, where my buddy, shout out to Ginger Joe, who works with kids and uses Magic to teach them social interaction, sportsmanship, how to be a good winner, how to be a good loser, critical thinking, math, reading. He uses Magic to do all of those things. And I won't lie, comic books and Magic cards is how I learned to read. So when I say that this is a special deck and I am passionate about projects like this and that I can't wait for my son to be able to read and understand how to play it, it truly will be a special day. And until then, I will just live vicariously through a podcast and featuring other people's decks that are doing the same. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank David one more time. Encourage your daughter to keep learning the game, keep getting better, introduce her friends to it, the next generation, if you will. And for everybody else, I would encourage you to do the same with your younger brothers and sisters and kids, nieces, nephews, what have you. And if you or anybody that you know want to get at me, tell me about your niece, nephew, son, brother, sister, whoever it is, playing Magic, learning what Magic's taught them, you can get at me at CADPopcast on Twitter, cadpopcast@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me through the Commander Ad Populum Facebook page. DMs are open everywhere. I welcome conversation everywhere. If you would feel inclined and wish to support the cast, you can go to patreon.com/cadpopcast. Discord benefits are available through the Patreon page, and that's another great place to chat, decks, ideas, general wellness, kind of Commander and Magic the Gathering community talk. It all happens there as well. Finally, big thank you to FusionGamingOnline.com, your source for all of your deck tech needs, your Alicorn, Horse, Pegasus, Ponies, and Unicorn tribal needs. We'll go that far. Don't forget to, if you want to trade in any of your cards to Fusion, they do routinely have bonuses for trade-ins. If you want to build a new deck like this deck, or if you want to offload a bunch of cards, they do buy cards all the time. If you're selling cards or buying cards from Fusion, I'd appreciate at checkout if you let them know that Ryan from Commander at Populum sent you. It helps the show out a lot. And with that, everybody, I'd like to remind you to check out Commander Ad Populum every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts. We've got a couple special interviews coming up with a guest that has never guested on the show before, and it was a really special interview for me to do because this person is exactly like me in every way, shape, and form that we could find. So if you like listening to me, just imagine it being doubled to 2 me's. All right, that's it, everybody. I will see you next Wednesday.